everyone, and welcome back to the Didja Show. I'm Hannah.
And I'm Kaylin. From the man who fell in the water with a large animatronic shark on the now defunct Jaws ride at Universal Studios Orlando,
to the McDonald's cheeseburger sold in 2009 that looks almost the same 15 years later.
Today we're breaking down 25 more stories and oddities from all around the world. Picture this, you're riding Jaws at Universal Studios Orlando, and you fall into the water with this animatronic, which thrusts with power equal to that of a Boeing 737 at takeoff. That's exactly what happened in July 1990, when the ride boat's railing broke and a 39-year-old man splashed into the Amity Harbor recreation, which was filled with tracks and over 2,000 miles of electrical wire. He was pulled back on board as guests clapped, assuming the fall was part of the ride. The man sued Universal for $1 million, claiming poor ride maintenance. In fact, the ride broke down all the time, and in its early days was evacuated almost daily. The ride was eventually almost completely overhauled before being closed in January 2012 and replaced with Harry Potter Diagon Alley. The remains of the animatronic was confirmed to have been found in a backyard in Maryland in 2021. It's now part of a Jaws display in a Staten Island restaurant called 494 Chicken. Did you know that there's a McDonald's in Rome, Italy that contains the remains of an ancient Roman structure from the 4th century BC? The city's Roma Termini station has a basement-level McDonald's with a large piece of the Servian wall, so named because it possibly dates back to the times of King Servius Tullius. According to Atlas Obscura, the wall stood for generations as the first line of defense against the Gauls and Carthaginians. By the early imperial age, the wall became unnecessary as the Roman army grew in number and power. Today, its remains can be spotted throughout Rome, with the largest actually just outside the Termini station. The bit that's now inside the McDonald's was actually unearthed during the construction of the station's underground shopping mall. I'd love to visit and have a side of history with my fries. Did you know that there's a place in the Chihuahuan Desert in Mexico called the Zone of Silence, where absolutely no communication, including radio signals, can be received? If you go into the zone, located in the Mapimai Biosphere Reserve, and place a compass near stones on the ground, the compass will spin out of control. The Zone of Silence measures around 31 miles across and is mostly flat and uninhabited. The signal disruption is believed to be caused by subterranean deposits of magnetite as well as debris from meteorites. The zone got its nickname in 1966 when the leader of an expedition for the oil company Pemex became frustrated when his radio didn't work. In 1970, the zone made headlines when a rocket that launched from an airbase in Utah that was supposed to come down near White Sands, Mexico, went very astray and crashed in the heart of the Zone of Silence at 2 a.m. Did you know that an Englishman named David Latimer has kept a thriving garden in a sealed bottle for 58 years? As the true story goes, David planted a spiderwort seed compost in a large glass bottle on Easter Sunday in 1960, splashed it with a pint of water, and left it sealed and untouched for decades. In fact, the last time the so-called world's oldest terrarium was watered was 1972, but it doesn't need it. From the moment the bottle was placed in a sunny spot all those years ago, photosynthesis got to work and it grew into a self-sufficient ecosystem. Plants get the energy they need from the sunlight, and the process produces oxygen and moisture in the air. Once that moisture accumulates inside the bottle, it just rains back down. If you think about it, it's like a mini Earth in a bottle. Did you know that there's a type of mushroom called a burn morel that grows in areas that have been recently burned? The mushrooms are edible and highly prized by mushroom hunters and chefs for their unique flavor and texture, according to morelmushroom.com. And yes, that is a website. According to the website, burn morels can be found in a variety of habitats and typically come up the year after the fire occurs, but continue to grow for several years after that. Morel mushrooms thrive in very nutrient-rich soils, and oddly, fires create that. When a fire burns through an area, it cleans out competing vegetation, but also releases nutrients into the soil. So why don't the morels themselves burn? They've adapted to live underground, and they form a hard rock-like mass that protects them when they're dormant. 90s and 2000s kids remember Limited 2, right? Well, did you know that the brand is back? Limited 2, which has been defunct since it merged with Justice in 2009, returned June 27th with a colorful rooftop party in Times Square, where the new back-to-school collection set to launch in July was unveiled. Its first drop will be available both in Kohl's stores and online. The fact that some of these styles resemble the Limited 2 clothes we all used to wear is so nostalgic. So here's the question for you guys. What's the difference between Justice's style and Limited 2's? Did you know that you're looking at the shortest international bridge in the world? Zavon Island connects a Canadian house with its American backyard with a 32-foot-long bridge. The island is one of many sitting on the St. Lawrence River. Over the 4th of July holiday, we spent days passing between New York and Canada, where the so-called Thousand Islands stretch for about 30 miles from Kingston, Ontario to New York. The archipelago is made up of over 1,800 islands, which range from just the size of a few tiny rocks that birds use as perches to 40 square miles. An island is only considered to be one of the 1,864,000 islands if it remains above water 365 days a year and supports a living tree. Did you know that archaeologists recently discovered a mummy inside a coffin that's the spitting image of Marge Simpson? I mean, look at this! The discovery was made in a newly found Egyptian cemetery dating back 3,500 years to the 20th dynasty New Kingdom era. That time period, often called the Golden Age of ancient Egypt, is marked by the reign of pharaohs like Ramses III and Ramses XI. The exact location of the discovery has not been shared, but it likely came from Egypt's Luxor or the Valley of the Kings, where many other New Kingdom tombs have been found. They always say that The Simpsons predicts world events, but in this case, did ancient Egypt predict The Simpsons? If you've never marveled at underground indigenous homes, it's probably just because you've never seen them. Did you know that these homes, which are built partially or entirely below ground level, have been used by indigenous cultures around the world for centuries? Their purpose? Because these homes are covered by the earth, they provide natural insulation and protection from weather, and they can even store food. Just a few examples are the traditional pit houses of Native American tribes in the southwestern United States and the turf houses of Scandinavia. But the oldest pit dwellings were discovered in central Ukraine 15,000 years ago, during the Upper Paleolithic Age when the houses were made of mammoth bones. Researchers believe that animal skin was draped outside and that each home had a hearth. Groups of houses were arranged around a base camp layout, occupied by families or relatives for weeks or even months. They sure look comfortable, don't they? Did you know that Nintendo's iconic Mario character and mascot was named after a real-life man who in 1981 rented a Washington state warehouse to Nintendo for use as their American headquarters? As the story goes, a real estate developer named Mario Segale visited the warehouse to collect overdue rent from Nintendo of America's president and berated him in front of employees, but then he gave them time to pull together the money. They were working on the arcade game Donkey Kong at the time. The president, Minoru Arakawa, and his developers then hatched the idea to rename the game's main character, who was then called Jumpman Mario. In 2015, Nintendo confirmed the story that their Mario character was indeed named after Segale. Segale told the Seattle Times in 1993, "You might say I'm still waiting for my royalty checks." He died in October 2018 at age 84. The obvious next question is, did he have a friend named Luigi? This isn't an oddity, but it's definitely special. Did you know that Nintendo's new game, Paper Mario: The Thousand-Year Door, features a transgender character? The game was first released for the GameCube in 2004, but was just remade for the Switch. Vivian is a purple shadow being who actually already appeared as a transgender woman in the original Japanese and some European translations, but any mention of her gender was removed from the initial English releases. But now, in the brand new game, the English script has also been updated, including restoring Vivian's portrayal as a trans character. By the way, Birdo is also considered to be a transgender character in the Mario series. Anyway, in Paper Mario, Vivian initially serves as an enemy to Mario, but later joins the player's party after Mario helps her. This game seriously looks like so much fun. Will you be playing? We couldn't believe it either, but guys, did you know that this is a real mushroom called dead man's fingers? More specifically, it's a mushroom-like fungal growth that, appropriately, can be found at the base of dead or dying trees, shrubs, and other wood objects that are in contact with soil. The fingers range from about 1.5 to 4 inches tall, and their spores are produced inside each finger and released through a tiny hole in the top. The fungus can be found on all 6 inhabited continents and is common in forest and woodland areas, so keep an eye out next time you're exploring outside, if you dare. Did you know that 3 animatronic sharks, all of which were named Bruce, were used in the filming of the 1975 movie Jaws? Each of the fiberglass sharks malfunctioned so much during filming that the filming ran over schedule and budget, and after the movie they were left in a backlot to rot away. The year the movie came out, production designer Joe Alviz's original mold was used to make one more shark, which was hung by its tail and greeted visitors to Universal until around 1990. The shark was then sold to junkyard owner Sam Adlin, who took in the 25-foot-long monster at Adlin Brothers Auto Wrecking in Sun Valley, California, where it would stay for 25 years. Eventually, Sam's son inherited the shark, and in 2016 donated it to be displayed at a movie museum built by the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. The museum opened in 2021, and you can go visit Bruce in Los Angeles now. Did you know that there's a glacier known as the Doomsday Glacier, so named because its rapid melting could quickly become devastating to coastal communities? Antarctica's Thwaites Glacier, which is roughly the size of the state of Florida and considered to be the most unstable and fastest changing glacier in the world, is vigorously melting, according to a new study published in the journal Proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences. And for the first time, there's visible evidence that shows warm seawater is pumping underneath the glacier and entering deep cracks shaped like stairs that are underneath the glacier, accelerating its deterioration. If it keeps melting at this rate, it could raise sea levels as much as 2 feet in places like Florida, researchers say. The glacier is also a natural dam to other ice in West Antarctica, and if that ice is released into oceans, levels could rise as many as 10 feet, putting many of the world's coastal cities underwater. This may take many decades, experts say. Recently came across a reference to light up spoons and cereal boxes in the early 2000s, and it sent us down a rabbit hole sparked by one question. When did toys disappear from cereal boxes, and why? Did you know that toys in cereal boxes were first popularized in the 1950s and began disappearing in the mid-2000s? The topic was explored in a 2023 article in Tasting Table, which noted that there was no singular reason for the dwindling of cereal box toys, but the hypothesis is that it's due to a combination of factors, like to help cut down on waste for the environment, lower costs for the cereal companies, and over concerns about choking hazards. In fact, millions and millions of cereal box toys were recalled over the years due to choking concerns. Cereal prizes are not completely gone, though. In 2020, General Mills put toys back in some of their cereal boxes, and kids can still find comic books in some. What cereal box prizes do you remember from your childhood? Recently, a couple of photos went viral about the supposedly unexplained hole in the middle of the Dr. Pepper Museum in Waco, Texas. But there's actually a very simple yet interesting explanation. Known as the artesian well, this 27.5-foot deep hole sits next to the bottling machines at the museum. It provided water in the early years of Dr. Pepper bottling, when artesian water would be brought up to the 3rd floor of the building to be chilled and distilled. Some of the water would go down to the 2nd floor for the syrup-making process, and some would be carbonated and used in the bottling process. In the 1920s, Waco went through a series of droughts, and the city closed all indoor wells. People began to basically use the well as a trash can, and after it was full, it was covered with cement. When the building was turned into a museum in the 80s, the well was excavated only to a certain depth before it was reopened. There is still a lot of trash deeper than 27.5 feet, so no one knows how deep the well actually is. At least one beautiful thing came out of 2020, and that was the discovery of this bright pink manta ray off the southernmost island of Australia's Great Barrier Reef. According to National Geographic, photographer Christian Lane was freediving when he spotted the 11-foot ray through his camera, which he at first thought was malfunctioning. Later, Lane realized that he had met the only known pink manta ray in the world. He's named Inspector Clouseau after the Pink Panther character, and has only been seen around 10 times since he was first spotted in 2015. After ruling out illness or diet as the cause of the pink hue, researchers now believe the ray has a genetic mutation in its expression of melanin, or pigment. This is similar to the mutation that would cause albinism, or any other unique color variations in creatures of all kinds.
Did you know there is a pool in the Shinjuku district of Tokyo, Japan, that is depicted so often in anime and adult films, it is now referred to as that pool in internet subculture? The real-life indoor swimming pool is located in an apartment room, officially called number 136 Hanazono Room, on the top floor of Tokyo's Sun Mall Crest condominium. The Hanazono Room was built sometime around 2000, when Japan was recovering from the real estate disaster of the 90s. A few years and many appearances in photo shoots, anime, and X-rated films later, internet forums began referring to the pool as that pool, a name that was eventually picked up by the media. Though filmmakers stopped using the pool itself as a set in August 2020 due to problems with operating and maintenance expenses, that pool's pool room and deck is still used in photo shoots and promotional trailers to this day.
Did you know that there exists a species of fish called the chameleon tilefish, also known as the flashing tilefish, that's able to change colors in the blink of an eye? The fish, native to the Indian Ocean and Western Pacific Ocean, is able to perform the switch with the help of specialized proteins in its skin that can reflect light in different wavelengths, allowing it to cycle between the primary and secondary colors on the light spectrum. In general, tilefishes are found in sandy areas, especially near coral reefs. They're around 5 inches long and have a long lifespan, up to 46 years for females and 39 years for males. Flashing tilefish are very loved among people who keep marine aquariums as a hobby, but they're quite rare, expensive, and not the easiest to care for, so they're recommended only for experts. Did you know that the last McDonald's cheeseburger ever sold in Iceland is on display at a hostel? After McDonald's closed all of its Iceland locations in 2009, a man named Hjörtur Smarsson decided to conduct a little experiment. How will the burger decay, or not decay, over time? The burger has moved around a lot, first sitting in a plastic bag in his garage, then to the National Museum of Iceland, then to a hostel in Iceland. Now it's at another hostel called Snotra House, where it sits inside a glass case and has visitors from all over the world. It drew so much curiosity that for a time there was a live stream on the burger. One theory is that the burger is still so intact because it doesn't have enough nutrients for many microbes. McDonald's claimed that in the right environment, our burgers, like most other foods, could decompose, but that without moisture in the environment, they were, quote, unlikely to grow mold or bacteria or decompose. Did you know that the main international airport in the Netherlands has an installation that appears to consist of a man inside a clock, updating the time by erasing and redrawing the hand every single minute 24/7? Well, things aren't always what they seem, but the real story is still kind of crazy. The clock, which is at Schiphol Airport, is actually a 12-hour recording of the man at work that loops constantly. So yes, the first time around, he did have to do this for 12 hours straight. The project is by German artist Martin Boz, who has other similar clock pieces as part of the series of 12-hour films called Real Time. The first one was launched in April 2009 in Milan, and there's also one in Venice and another in London. Did you know that there exists a species of dolphin that only inhabits a 118-mile stretch of the river between Cambodia and Laos PDR? There are only 92 Mekong River Irrawaddy dolphins estimated to still exist. They have a bulging forehead, short beak, and between 12 and 19 teeth on each side of both jaws. Irrawaddy dolphins in general are found in coastal areas in South and Southeast Asia, and in 3 rivers, the Irrawaddy in Myanmar, the Mahakam in Indonesian Borneo, and of course the Mekong. They grow between 5.9 to 9 feet in length and weigh between 198 and 440 pounds, and they're really cute. Does anyone else get nostalgic when thinking about Ask Jeeves? Founded in 1996 by Garrett Gruner and David Worthen in Berkeley, California, Ask Jeeves was a website where you asked this man questions and he gave you answers in casual, easy-to-understand language. The idea behind Jeeves was that he was a, quote, gentleman's personal gentleman, and he was made after a fictional valet in the works of P.G. Wodehouse. A Jeeves balloon and a float even appeared in the Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade from 2000 through 2004. In 2006, the website was rebranded simply to Ask.com, and a legend was laid to rest. Did you know that there is a spring in Taiwan that spouts fire and water at the same time? The Fire and Water Spring, also known as the Fire and Water Cave, is a tourist attraction in Tainan City that seems to defy the laws of nature. We all know that water puts out fire, right? Well, here, natural gas emerges from the cliff walls, and once ignited, the flames burn without dying out. At the same time, spring water pours out from cracks in the cliff walls, creating this insane geological structure. Legend has it that at the site of the Fire and Water Spring is the fire-spitting head of the Qilin, a half-dragon, half-horse creature from Chinese mythology. Did you know that there are coffee shops in Japan where you get your drink from a fluffy bear paw through a hole in the wall? At one of the cafes, located in Osaka with the name translating to Bearpaw Cafe, you receive your drink from one of 6 students who come from Mental Support General School and are working to take a step back into society by offering a friendly paw. Another cafe, a bright green building in Tokyo called Anakuma, follows the same premise. You make an order through a screen and then grab your coffee, tea, or snack without having to speak to anyone. If you visit the website, you can even see each bear's name and work schedule. Thank you for joining us on the Did You Know Show, and as always, feel free to reach out to us with any story ideas that you'd like us to cover. Till next time!